OTB will be accepting wagers on nighttime thoroughbred racing from across the country, featuring evening racing from Delmar and Woodbine, and now it's even easier to be part of the action. Simply log on to capitalotbbet.com on all your digital devices, or use our newly designed mobile app. So even when the sun goes down, thoroughbred racing continues at capitalotbbet.com. Log on today.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to capitalotb.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. capitalotb.com.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. Seth Merrill and Steve Bick. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Seth.
It is a wet morning out here at Saratoga.
You forgot
chilly.
cold.
Well, I said a little chilly here. And did you come through? There was like a lake outside the gate out there that we had to kind of venture through.
They call that Lake Signor.
Well, I was talking about the one out by the.
Out by the street.
No, but we do have one right in front of our
Yes,
trailer
yes.
too that tends to fill in, and it has. Although this is the first time this season that we've gotten standing water back here, and Dave Brennick tweeted out, "We're off the turf," and it's the first time I think he tweeted since August 19th. Weather-wise, it's been great this year. So we put up with some chilly weather the last couple of days and some rainy weather today. Although tomorrow again is supposed to be a beautiful day.
Going to be a beautiful Labor Day, and imagine you'll be on the turf tomorrow. Certainly, the turf course could use this, and let's be reasonable. Nobody is going to complain about a day of rain like this, remnants of the storm that was so devastating. So for us to suffer one day out of 40 up here, no harm done, and still should be some good racing, including the Prior S, and that'll give rise to tomorrow, the hopeful. And I'd forgotten the Bernard Baruch. The Baruch had been kind of footballed around, and ends up being actually a very good group tomorrow. So looking forward to closing day, and we're running as well.
I was going to say, let's tee you up. You got a horse in the nightcap.
Our friend Tony Montanino, our partner on all of the DT horses, his dad is in town, which is really nice. He's got his son, and we've waited, all meet, and expected that the filly would run. And she ends up in the last race of the season, which is kind of funny. So hopefully a great way to cap the meet. It's been a lot of fun, and from all accounts, it's hard to even identify all the best moments. I mean, this has been. Nearly,
I'll tee up you for one of your favorite moments, because I saw you a couple of days ago. You were already in the winner's circle. Being longtime friends of the Live Oak Plantation folks, you got to present the trophy. You were chosen to present the trophy, and then they win the race.
I will say, whenever asked to present a trophy, it's a great honor, and it's always a thrill. And to be able to present it to Charlotte Weber and Ginny Moans and Mike Trombetta, who are really among the people that I know the longest and the best in the game, and the experience I had with Mike Trombetta going back to Sweet Northern Saint, where I had really just started on the radio show in 2005, 2006, and happened to have called Mike after Saint had won a race early in the winter, and I said, Mike, I want to talk to you on the show about your Derby horse. And he said, I don't know if I have a Derby. I said, you have a Derby horse. And got to spend really the whole lead up and then Derby the 2 weeks at Churchill with Mike, and have known Mrs. Weber, for close to 20 years. And it was really a particular honor and thrill for me, and that was fun. And she's had a fabulous meet.
Yeah.
That's her second stake win, obviously, to go with World Approval's 4-star Dave. He's going to look toward Woodbine. We'll be up there. And she's got Holding Gold, who ran a good second earlier in the meet to Green Mask. He's going tomorrow in Philadelphia in the Turf Monster.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You got those 3 stakes. You got the Sparty Jones Day, the Sparty Jones Greenwood Cup, and the Turf Monster in Philly tomorrow. But that was pretty special.
Yeah, I saw you after the race talking with them, and you said it was a nice honor to not only present, but to present to them.
Well, let me present you this trophy.
Yes?
Yes.
Should I open?
Oh, absolutely.
We are set again for a new set of ties. It was the Sacco ties. Now it's the Boxo ties.
Boxo ties.
All right, very good.
Changed it up a little bit.
Because I tend to be kind of concerned. This is actually one of mine, which kind of shows the conservative side. You're a little more outside the box, so you brought me into the outside the box, outside the sack with the previous Sacco ties, but now I have a whole new set, so people can tune in and see when I put these in rotation. This one is kind of more my style. That's what I got.
That had a bit of a Seth feel to it, but I thought I tried to get a couple from the color palette and a couple of different geometrics and a couple of regimentals.
I certainly appreciate them, and I know that once they're in your rotation for 3 or 4, then you move them along.
This is a very self-serving thing that I do with Seth, with the Sacco ties and now Boxo ties, because I get a ton of mileage out of it for years afterward. Every time he wears one, you can say, Sacco ties, Boxo ties.
The staff does it all the time. Is that a Sacco ties tie? I have to say,
now
like 80% of the time, I have to say, yes, it is. Yes.
Well, they will take the place of honor in the back seat of Seth's car, which is his rolling haberdash. Which really, they should really do a video remote. You could do the show actually from the car, from the Pontiac, or is that an Oldsmobile?
There is now a light kit in the back seat too. So yeah, we could. We got all the technical aspects back there. And I went out last night. Somebody texted me, "Hey, you gonna be out?" And I said, "Well, I got to go home. The vast closet is not providing the right weather array today, so I had to go home and change clothes because I didn't have the right mix of clothes in the back seat." But yeah, it's a fun lifestyle.
That's our man.
Yeah. You touched on a little bit talking about how well Mrs. Weber has done. Let's touch on the human side of the game now, because over the past couple of days, it's going to be a lot of fun. Chad and Todd, one apart. Chad 38, Todd 37. So they're knocking heads for the lead over the past next couple of days. But it's been good meets for a number of trainers. Linda Rice certainly sitting in third. Bill Mott, Rudy Rodriguez, Kieran's had a nice meet. Oh, George Weaver. He's had a really good meet.
George Weaver's unbelievable.
Jason Service, who we had earlier. Jeremiah has come together towards the end of the meet to put together a nice, strong meet. Charlie Baker, of course. But as I say, it's at the top, Chad and Todd have separated themselves, but there have been nice meets by some of the other players.
And to lay out what we're going to see, today, Chad's got 6 horses. Pletcher had 11 entered, 2 MTOs. Tomorrow, Chad's got 10 entered with 2 MTOs, and they probably will not get in. They'll use the turf course tomorrow. Todd Pletcher, so Chad Brown nets down to 8 starters, including some multiples in certain races. And Todd Pletcher with 10 starters tomorrow. And interestingly, we'll mention that, let's see, today they're in 2 races head-to-head, and tomorrow they're in 5 races head-to-head. So it should get very interesting, and as it happens, after the 8th race tomorrow, which is the state-bred non-winners of 2 on the grass for a mile, Pletcher's got a pair in there, and Chad Brown's got 1. After that, Todd's got horses in the 9th and the 10th. So he'll get 2 at wherever things stand at that point after the 8th race. That'll be Chad's last starter. Todd Pletcher will get 2 more cracks, and he had Todd came very close last night in the nightcap in the Glens Falls. Terrific effort on the front end, and front end has been the place to be on this turf course. That may change tomorrow. I would imagine with a little bit of give to it, things might get a little more fair out there. The grass has been really giving it up to the front end horses unless the pace melts down.
Jockey side, Jose Ortiz 3 ahead of his brother Irod. That could play out over the next couple of days with only a 3 win swing in there, but I wanted to talk about some of the others. 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and particularly 5th kind of jumps out at me. John Velasquez in the 3rd position right now. Man, he is having a great meet. Javier Castellano 4th. But the kid who's having a really good meet, Manny Franco,
been terrific.
Has had a really, really fabulous Saratoga meet.
If you were to split it out, Manny Franco's stats, I take the like in 10-day increments. He was off to a terrible start. He was like he might have been like 1 for 20 to start the meet. So it is outlandish what he has done the back, let's say, 3 quarters. I'll look that up. I'm curious about it. Jose Lezcano has ridden very well. Had a terrific meet, powered in part by Voodoo Song, the horse of the meet with 4 wins. Unbelievable. Starting opening day in a 40-claimer and then working his way up to a graded stake win yesterday. It's unbelievable. Barry Schwartz with the homebred and Linda Rice at the helm. I'll tell you who else. We each kind of had a under-the-radar rider going in. You with Eric Cancel, who's got 8 wins, and me a little bit with Dylan Davis. And they both have got 8 wins. And Dylan Davis, actually, I think also a guy that really struggled at the beginning of the meet and has come on. Eric Cancel has ridden consistently throughout the whole meet. And obviously you look and you see Florent Giroux with only 6 wins, but 2 of them are on Gun Runner, and we'll talk to Steve Asmussen later in the show after Gun Runner may have made himself the Breeders' Cup Classic favorite. I mean, that is going to be a fascinating story as we inch closer, Arrogate and Gun Runner.
I was down at Andy's show on Thursday night, and Randy Moss and Jerry Bailey were there, and Randy Moss said, even with the 2nd place finish in the Pack Classic, Arrogate's firing better numbers than Gun Runner ever has. But he fires a 115 yesterday.
Well, at a 142 on time form. These are numbers that are absolutely on a par with Arrogate in terms of figures. So Arrogate's going to have to come back and run his best, but Gun Runner arguably is not necessarily at his best going 10 furlongs. So there's a really, that's your headline battle. And I think you're going to have to go back a little bit in Breeders' Cup Classic annals to kind of figure out the last time we had 2 names at the top of marquee names like this that that I suppose some people might say California Chrome and Arrogate last year, but a little different. But this is 2 older horses, which makes for a great build-up, not to mention everything else that's going to go on in the other divisions.
And just before we take a look at some of the races yesterday, I also wanted to mention in the owner's side, Michael Dubb will join us. And Michael
Dubb next.
Which I pulled up on the NYRA website, because you pull up on Equibase, they don't parse them out. It's tough to find the owners on Equibase the way they do it. You would think that with technology today, you think you could click a button where it would pull them all together.
And Michael Dubb, I happened to have spoken to him yesterday, and that topic came up. And not that he's all that concerned, but it does bring up a good point. I mean, he is invariably. The horses are wearing his silks, the yellow jacket with the medallion, and he's the majority owner in virtually all the cases. He ran a horse yesterday, ran 2nd in one of the Florida Stallion Series races with Kathleen O'Connell down and here's Michael Dubb walking in as we talk about him. Ran 2nd yesterday down at Gulfstream, but Michael made the very fair point that he's got agglomerations of partners, and Saul Cumin, another guy with his different
like I say, with the technology, it seems like they could parse that out on Equibase. But if you go to the NYRA website, it does parse out. Michael currently leading 1 win ahead of Klarovich over the next couple of days.
Well, and that win, actually, a grade 1 win, and we'll talk about it. We'll watch the video, and I've got a funny personal association to the story. The Breeders in Oklahoma Scott Pierce and his wife Lene, they have had, I mean, I think they've got 4 mares or 5 mares, and they've had really heady success this year. They've got a horse with the Zayats bought for big money. There's this Grade 1 winner yesterday. Quite something. So
those small
congratulations to the
Pierces.
Pierces.
Like that, it's always kind of fun.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at some of the races before we go to a break. Let's pull up the Woodward and just get some thoughts there. We've already kind of commented on it. I mean, you can't get much more impressive than this. Yeah, and it was a nice field. Neolithic came in with a little bit of buzz. Rally Cry off that big win earlier in the meet, but Gun Runner, as they come into the stretch, just pulls away. Chart margin 10 1/4 lengths. Does it in a good time, does it with a 115 buyer number, and again, stamps himself now as potentially the favorite going into the Breeders' Cup Classic. We'll see how it plays out, but buyer-wise, which I think a lot of bettors focus on, this 115 is going to attract attention.
Well, and what has happened with him, and we'll talk to Steve Asmussen about it in the next half hour, but what is really notable about the way Gun Runner has improved and raised his game, it basically has to do with his ability to sit comfortably now, Seth. And, there was a portion of his career early on where he wanted the lead, and it was a little more difficult to hold him back. And right now, he has really become exceedingly comfortable, and this was even more evident than it was in the Whitney 5 weeks ago. I mean, he sits beautifully as Neolithic sets the pace. You could see Neolithic even before midway on the backstretch. You could see that Neolithic was going to start to pack it in and drop anchor. And Rally Cry kind of ranged up, but he was being asked pretty quickly. And what this tells you about Gun Runner is that he's operating at a cruising speed that is making other horses work. And this is the Arrogate scenario as well. That Arrogate in his normal gait has got everybody else asking their horse. This horse has been absolutely developed right on time by Team Asmussen. Looking forward to talking to Steve in a little bit about what has gone into this. But for Ron Winchell, who already has an abundance of riches when it comes to the Tappet progeny, now is going to have a Gun Runner. He's going to have access to a Candy Ride son. I mean, Ron Winchell is just, blessed right now with what is going to ultimately be maybe, given Candy Ride's success at stud already, Gun Runner, will be highly sought after as well. So there's a lot going on here, and the Gun Runner Arrogate matchup and whoever else is going to, want to partake, collected, and so forth.
Given what happened out in Southern California and what happened here, that's a high level of interest to the Breeders' Cup Classic now, as compared to what we thought, Arrogate just kind of rolling through the year, but now things have switched up significantly. We wrapped things up last night in the Glens Falls. Harmonize, the number 8 horse, is going to win here. And again, we mentioned it when we talked about the jockeys. John Velasquez on board. Just a really nice meet for John Velasquez. Bill Mott trains. Harmonized the winner in the Glens Falls last night.
Grateful made a lot of sense from a pace standpoint. There was not a lot of pace in this race. And Harmonized absolutely perfectly positioned and stayed within striking distance. Johnny Velasquez, as you say, has just had a magical meet and has just enough. War Flag was back early. I thought that maybe Jose Ortiz would want to have War Flag a little bit more involved, a little earlier. Just because of the way this turf course is playing, we could maybe talk with Michael Dubb as part of our discussion next about those kinds of considerations when it comes to adjusting your thinking and owner and trainer and jockey talking about what do we do. Our horse isn't necessarily one with early speed on the grass, but the way the course is playing. That's what was the story of the Voodoo Song win in the Saranac.
Yeah, we can watch that, actually.
Saranac. How do you not know where Voodoo Song is going to be? And, I wasn't convinced that the splits were right, but whatever. I mean, how do you let this horse get away again on the front end?
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, though. We kind of talked about in the handicappers report, but it looked like at the top of the stretch they might swallow the horse up. But boy, what a gutsy performance, just kind of spurts away. Yoshida kind of gets up to neck the horse or get beaten by a neck, and Bricks and Mortar third. I had him flip-flopped. I had Bricks and Mortar over Yoshida, over Voodoo Song. Well, down the backside, you started to think, this may be tough to reel this horse in. And as I say, when they got to the top of the stretch, you thought, maybe they'll do it, but then showed a nice gutsy performance to, as you said earlier, put a good storyline on the meet. 4 wins at the meet. And Dave Grenick tweeted out, Native Dancer in 1952. 4 wins at the meet.
In 2-year-old races?
Probably, yes.
Wow. I missed that, and we were talking about it. There were a couple of crazy of those kinds of asides. A horse winning 4 times at the meet, and how about the Gomez's, Oscar Gomez and Kevin Gomez, and Rich Migliore, the only father-son combination he could think of in terms of jocks were the Woodhouses. Which, again, goes back historically. So that's what's so great about Saratoga. You're touching on history on a daily basis. We're going to take our break right here. Michael Dubb is going to join us, and we got a lot to talk about with Michael. Not only is he engaged, of course, in a battle for another owner's title with Seth Klarman, but we also can talk a little bit about potential long-term Saratoga planning and association planning in Michael's role on the board. Back after this. Loose on the Lead, a chilly Sunday, a wet Sunday, but we're all warmed by the outstanding season we've had here at Saratoga. Back after this.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Nighttime thoroughbred racing is back at Capital OTB. Now through Labor Day, Capital OTB will be accepting wagers on nighttime thoroughbred racing from across the country, featuring evening racing from Del Mar and Woodbine, and now it's even easier to be part of the action. Simply log on to CapitalOTBBet.com on all your digital devices, or use our newly designed mobile app. So even when the sun goes down, thoroughbred racing continues at CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, you get track prices. Going on now, it's Bet 50, Get 50. Simply open a Capital Bets account, bet $50, and get $50 cash back. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Now it's a global series. The best racers from all over the world, the best trainers, the best jockeys.
You can get a free entry into the Breeders' Cup, and everybody wants to run in a Breeders' Cup race.
You get your travel expenses paid for the Breeders' Cup. Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
If we're considering 2 different races and one was a win and you're in and one was not, that would be the tiebreaker.
It's probably the best thing that's happened to racing in the last 10 years.
Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
With more than 60 Easy Bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all Easy Bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB. We're closer than you think.
We're back on the backstretch, Loose on the Lead, Capital OTB, our last of the season, and just 2 cards remain, of course, 5% of the meet left, and happy to welcome Michael Dubb, who is engaged in one of the exciting high-profile battles for another owner title, and he wins some in a cakewalk, and this one is really a struggle with Seth Klarman, and it should make for an exciting couple more days.
No cakewalks at Saratoga, and Seth Klarman's a great guy, and win, lose, or draw, it's a lot of fun.
Well, yesterday, as we talked just about the runners, and don't worry about those storylines in terms of the owner's title, thrill that is always indescribable, a grade 1 win. Here it is, the end of the meet, the 7 furlong spin away, and you take this one, and your 2-year-old fillies have been particularly strong the last few years.
Somehow, some way, this is the 3rd spin away in 6 years that we've won.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You had to be licking your chops on the back stretches. They dueled up front, and I turned to somebody and said, this is setting up for Lady Ivanka.
You know, I was kidding with somebody last night, and they said we went off at 5-1, but after the first quarter mile, we could have been 3-5. Having said that, I was afraid of and respecting Len Riggio's horse who ran second from Delaware, because we took the same pattern with Grace Hall. We broke our maiden at Delaware and came up here for the spin away, and we did that 6 years ago. So I did have a lot of respect for the horse who ran second.
I had to run into Rudy Rodriguez earlier in the day, and sitting outside the racing office waiting for the race. And I said, "What do you think? How are you going to approach it?" I said, "Certainly hope that those two go out, and we'll sit. And if we can get a piece, we'll be thrilled. And if it sets up for us to go by, that'd be even better." And you couldn't draw it up better.
No, usually when it looks like there's going to be 2 speeds, somebody decides to take back, and these are the way the races go. So when I actually saw them going ding-dong after a quarter mile and 22, I think 22-2, or 22-4, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. So.
Yeah, and as a bettor, I looked up at the board and said, I should have jumped on that at the price, because it was setting up, and it's set up the way it looked on paper. But as you say, oftentimes you look on paper, and then one of them will kind of outsmart the other, and somebody will sneak away a little bit early. What's the game plan going forward for Lady Ivanka?
She galloped out really well. We ran her back in the spin away a week or 10 days quicker than we would have liked to have, but it was here, and we had to take the opportunity. Obviously it was a win and you're in. We will see how she comes out of the race, and probably try the Breeders' Cup. The debate will be whether we train up for the Breeders' Cup or we have a race in between. You always love to get in some 2-turn experience. The Frizette, as it is a 1-turn race.
Yeah.
So those are questions to consider.
Michael, I want to talk about, as I mentioned, the fact that Oklahoma bred an $80,000 purchase at Timonium in the spring. Talk about picking this one out and how that all came about. I've mentioned the Pierces, Scott and Lene. Met them years ago in Baltimore. They're absolutely wonderful people. They got a handful of mares. They've gotten into the breeding to sell. They do race as well, but they've got into the breeding on the business side, and they've had a remarkable year.
Yep. So Kim Valerio, who purchases my yearlings and my 2-year-olds, was at the Timonian sale. This horse went RNA for $100,000, and I believe I stopped bidding at around $80,000. And I think it was the Oklahoma bred that psychologically, maybe kept me from going a little higher. Kim felt very strongly about the horse. She also felt very strongly about the person who had broken the horse and consigned the horse, Susan Montoya. And eventually, Susan's initial reaction was, I want 100 or I'm going to race the horse myself. Eventually, we made a deal where we bought 90% of the horse for $80,000 and she stayed in for 10%. And it's really good karma because she's a wonderful lady. This has been just a great, great thing for her. And it makes everybody happy. We all had a great celebratory dinner last night, including Susan. So, that's what racing's about. You take chances, you meet people, you have experiences like that, and much better than just, drawing a line in the sand and saying bye-bye. You have to be inclusive.
Just looking at the pattern, too, you had one after the Maiden Breaker where she was so impressive, and how high were expectations going into the debut?
Well, Rudy did a clever training job with her. Her last breeze, what he did is he got behind a couple horses, kind of to simulate the way the race was going to unfold. He let the horse take dirt in the face to have that experience, and then he actually went inside and cut the corner to give the horse the experience of cutting the corner. So she did all that very well. She was coming into the race, off an incredible breeze. We felt she was going to show up and run well, and obviously it all, fell into place.
So is Rudy riding her in the morning?
Rudy gets on her, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Hands on.
That's hands on, yes.
You gotta like that.
It's interesting. Of the top trainers, he's really the only one who gets on horses. So when we're talking about track condition or how a horse works, I'm really getting it kind of from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's there's any number of horses that you can think about with Rudy that having that experience and having been an afternoon rider, that he understands what he's dealing with. And all you got to do is think back to Vijak.
Yeah.
And here's Vijak, who's now 7 or 8. And he was a very difficult horse to deal with. And the fact that that horse is still competitive and is still running is in no small part to Rudy Rodriguez, who ended up having to put a very unusual set of headgear on him to control him and help him manage his talent. The hackamore that was highly discussed leading into the Derby and through the wood. So no doubt, having that kind of experience makes a big difference.
I have had some of the top trainers in the game say to me, this horse is very difficult on the track, this horse refuses to train, this horse has problems with his mind. Give that horse to Rudy. Because Rudy, I guess the experience of getting on the horses and being on the horses, he's really able to help those type of problem horses.
Speaking of giving horses to a variety of trainers, because you have several outfits that you work with, and you did run second yesterday behind a big effort down at Gulfstream in the Florida Stallion Series. Kathleen O'Connell, who is as good a horsewoman and horseman as there is anywhere, and really underappreciated. Kathleen sent that out. How do you parse out and decide who gets what?
Well, you're 100% correct in that question, and I look at it a little like going to the doctor. You want somebody who's good in that particular field. So, the horse that ran second in the Stallion Stakes in Florida was presented to me. Seemed to have a whole bunch of talent. I think got beat half a length. They went 122 and change for the 7 furlongs was a stakes record. Is a Florida bred. Jason Service goes down to Florida in October and stays there pretty much through the end of April. So I thought that horse would be a good fit for Jason. It was presented to me, and the current trainer, Kathleen O'Connell's done an excellent job. She's taking care of the horse. She's going to run the horse until we turn it over to Jason. But being a Florida bred, knowing there's Florida bred money available in the winter time, it was for Jason. But look, candidly, horses that are long on the turf tend to go to Chad. Horses that are long on the turf or sprint. I mean, we won a long turf race yesterday with Jason Service. And Rudy is obviously great getting them ready as 2-year-olds. He excels with dirt horses, although he's fine on the turf. I mean, all 3 of those trainers I just mentioned are interchangeable in their talent. But you try to, figure out the best fit for the best spot, and that's what we do.
Now, the horse down in Florida, World of Trouble.
Yes.
Named because?
I did not name the horse.
Okay, this was
a private purchase.
Talk about how there's a good aside as well. Talk about the various methods, and you mentioned Valerio and the sale purchase, but this happens, and it's happened more and more, where ready-made horses, maybe lower profile connections in various parts of the country, the mechanism by which that operates.
Well, for the breeder of Florida bred or New York bred, when a horse debuts as a 2-year-old, is probably the top of the market. This horse won its debut by 14 lengths, and ran a respectable, I think a 77 buyer number, a very good rag number, and was presented for sale. Now, it's not easy because when a horse breaks its maiden big first time out against inferior competition, you still don't know what's going to happen when a good horse looks it in the eyes. So you're taking a bit of a leap of faith. So it's not without peril, these private purchases. But, you know, people need to sell. I need to have horses claimed away from me in the claiming game because, you know, we always need a cycle of cash, as do the breeders and as do other owners. So when they present themselves, you know, they're looked at very closely.
We talked a couple of different overwraps here in terms of breeding to sell. You have redistributed stock and have chosen, I think for the most part, not to breed and basically to acquire horses either through the sales ring or now talk about the private acquisitions. How did your philosophy evolve in that regard, Mike? I'm very curious because there's a lot of people that get involved in the game. All of a sudden they find themselves, maybe with a retiring filly, a mare, and they get drawn in to potentially breed. Others want nothing to do with that end. Your view of it.
The key to my success on the racetrack has been diversity. In other words, I'll buy some yearlings, I'll buy some 2-year-old in trainings, I'll buy some private acquisitions, and I'll claim horses. The fifth one, obviously, is to breed. Breeding is a science unto itself, and I just don't feel I have the brain capacity left to have the proper knowledge to do it the right way. So I kind of stick to what I know, and I'm not complaining, though it's tempting to breed. I mean, you look at Vince Scuderi and the mare of Paula Silverlining. There's a mare he claimed for $12,500 that has thrown Grade 1 stakes winners, and he claimed the horse and he said, well, we'll breed it, and look what happens. So obviously that's more the exception than the rule, but it does happen, so it's important.
I want to toss out a handicapping thing you brought up. I had you here earlier in the meeting. You threw this out there, and you have a horse in today that is making that Finger Lakes to Saratoga move, and you talked a little bit about the horses that you had been watching going to Finger Lakes and coming back. You thought they came back to the NYRA tracks with a little bit of a fitness level.
Well, here's what we have to keep in mind. Two-turn racing really existed on the inner dirt track and at Saratoga. Most of the races at Belmont and Aqueduct, Maine, were elongated miles or mile and the 16th races. With the second turf course being built at Aqueduct and opening this fall, which will allow us now in the winter on the main track to race 7 furlong races and different distances as opposed to strictly 6 and a mile plus. We only have two-turn racing. We will only have two-turn racing up at Saratoga. So when we were here in the springtime up here in Saratoga getting ready for the meet, I was looking to get some two-turn races into my horses at any venue I could. And since we were here and Finger Lakes was there, Control Group, who won twice at the meet, we got some two-turn experience over there. And Literata, who won the Morning Dew, we got some two-turn experience. It paid off. In the case of the horse today in the first race, that was, kind of a workout for us because the horse had been away from a long time. We didn't want to throw it to the wolves here at Saratoga, wanted to get a race into it, and we certainly hope the horse moves forward off the Finger Lakes race, and that was the plan.
You keep a lot of horses up here in the off-season?
Yeah, between Chad and Rudy, they're at capacity, so they have to keep horses at Saratoga.
Speaking of staying at Saratoga, a perfect segue, Michael, to some of your responsibilities on the NYRA board. The non-stop discussion point about at least, not necessarily an expansion of race days here, but the speculation about the need ultimately with whatever is going to happen downstate for renovation at Belmont and all of that portion of the discussion. There is just this din that at some point we will have 5 days here over 8 weeks. where, from a board standpoint, do those discussions stand, and what are your thoughts on where we're headed?
Well, here's what has to happen. In order for the renovation to take place at Belmont, and we do eventually want to make Belmont more of a destination area. We want to make racing a great experience for people. We want people to come out. We want to have night racing 1 or 2 nights a week, maybe Thursday night, Friday night. Those of us who grew up and are old enough who grew up on Long Island remember the experience of Roosevelt Raceway and going there at night when you had huge crowds. It would give different fans the opportunity to come out. So in order for the renovation to happen, a lot of things have to happen that relate to government and mechanisms of government. As we all know, government moves very slow. So I don't foresee any renovation at Belmont anytime soon. If and when we get to renovate Belmont and improve Belmont, there may be a season that we'll have to come up here longer, but that's pure speculation. Everything that has been talked about on the backside of the meet being extended is pure speculation and not fact. There are no plans to expand the meet at this time, and for the foreseeable future, things are supposed to stay as they are.
I appreciate the response, because it has been, I mean, wherever you go, it somehow has cropped up into discussion. I think, who was it? Mike McAdam wrote about it yesterday in the paper, and people just are making these assumptions. Yeah. And there's really, I mean, from everybody that I've asked the question of, they've said there's no, it's not on the docket for now.
Well, look, you come here every day, and Saratoga is a magical place, indescribable to people into the full extent of what it is, unless they actually come here. So when you see something in racing, and we all love racing so dearly, that works so well, it's going to spark a debate of can we or should we do more of it. But I have to emphasize that debate is not going on at the NYRA board level. And I specifically addressed it at our August meeting and put it out there and said the rumors are out there, they're rampant, and it was a firm no, there are no plans to change anything next year or for the foreseeable future.
And you mentioned night racing, and I think a lot of people look at other venues around the country where it's been successful on limited bases, which is probably the good idea. But that's not something you could do immediately, even if you want to do it. That's going to take some kind of legislation.
Actually, I'm glad you asked. We put the legislation in this year for night racing. It's limited to 2 nights a week, and it actually got past the Senate, the Senate in New York. The Assembly stopped it. We will be putting that legislation back in. We have seen how well it works at places like Churchill Downs and the crowds it brings. And we want to have that ability to do that. But as I just said before, everything we do is subject to government. And so here we are. We have a great idea. We want to experiment, but we're at the mercy of government.
Michael, as a builder, and I mean this is somewhat unfair to even speculate, but knowing the building as it exists, and given some of the discussion about what might be the right approach to a revitalized and renovated or new Belmont, what if you could make the decision, and as somebody who knows what construction costs would be from the ground up, or from gutting the building and carving it out in a new way, what would be your preferred avenue?
Well, as we know, the Belmont building is basically a long rectangular box, and believe it or not, so is Ascot. Now, we're not turning Belmont into Ascot, so let me make that perfectly clear. But you have the bones to open up some floors, get some open air space, maybe make some suites and luxury boxes and things like that. But moreover, we know now, it's out there, that there is an RFP for the development of a sports arena adjacent to Belmont. we view that as a good thing because that will bring people to an area that will be conducive to an entertainment district. We want an entertainment district. We want people to come there. We want people to come have dinner, enjoy entertainment, but most of all, we want them to go to the races. So I do see the bones of Belmont, the structure, as usable, salvageable in any kind of renovation. I don't see a knockdown as being necessary.
There you go. I appreciate that, and we appreciate as well Michael Dubb's contributions when it comes to Anna House and to the Belmont Child Care Association. Everything that Michael has championed on that front as well. Another terrific
the party
soiree.
here.
Party was great.
The party was phenomenal.
Yeah, and Michael contributes around the sport and in New York in particular as much as anyone, and we thank you.
My pleasure.
Best of luck.
Good luck on the remaining 2 days.
We're going to take a break, and we'll come right back. Steve Asmussen is going to join us. He has won himself a Whitney and a Woodward this summer at Saratoga, and we'll get his thoughts on Gun Runner moving forward toward the Breeders' Cup. Back after this, Loose on the Lead.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
As an owner, I love the Breeders' Cup Win in Your In series.
To win one of these challenge series is a way that we kind of map out our schedule throughout the year with our horses.
If you win one of the challenge races, you have a very good horse.
The King George, which is our Win in Your In race, provides the top middle distance horse in Europe. We saw Highland Reel run in both races.
We know when we show up at the Breeders' Cup, we've got the world to beat, not just everybody in the United States. Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Oops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Conquistador Cielo puts ahead in front. Aloma's Ruler on the outside is second. And Runaway Groom from Canada moves up. Runaway Groom alongside the inner two. Those three to the wire. Runaway Groom, Aloma's Ruler, Conquistador Cielo, Runaway Groom in front.
Mike and everything.
Welcome back. It's you. You're up.
Really?
Yes.
I had nothing in the ear.
Oh, okay. Well, I heard it.
I'm glad one of us did. Well, we're happy to be back, and our final segment of the summer, and couldn't end in a better way. And the meet doesn't seem to be ending. Couldn't end in a better way for Steve Asmussen and for Ron Winchell, DJ Fisk, and the whole team as Gun Runner follows up the Whitney win with a resounding triumph in the Woodward. Steve, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. A tremendous horse, and just very appreciative of Mr. Torrealba and Mr. Winchell, to allow us the opportunity to bring such a nice horse back for a 4-year-old campaign.
We're replaying the race here as they went into the first turn. Are things playing out the way you envisioned it?
Well, obviously a lot of respect for both the Todd's horse's ability. With him having 2 in a 5-horse field, definitely expected one of them to, have intention away from there. I thought Florent recognized that immediately and rode him appropriately and let his ability take over.
They're on the backstretch now. You're sitting there second. Neolithic is kind of taking a lead and gotten away a little bit, but your confidence level at this point in the race?
Well, I thought that, Florent goosed him a little bit away from the gates just to keep his position with the way that they were away from there. The fractions that were up, 46, 56, very concerning. Watching the spin-away run the race before with how taxing the racetrack was. 3 quarters and 10 and 2. Very, very solid time at that point. But can't say enough about how pleased I was with the energy that Gunrunner went through the wire with.
Yeah, I mean, he pulls away here, chart margin of 10 1/4. As handicappers, and there's been buzz certainly about him this year, and off of this race as well, that he's now a better 4-year-old and obviously a major player in the handicap division, sits number 1 on the NTRA poll, and folks have compared him saying he's now a better 4-year-old than he was as a 3-year-old, and was a pretty good 3-year-old. But have you seen that level of development as he became a 4-year-old and an older horse?
I think most impressive thing about him is his rise. You know, in increments. Very talented 2-year-old, solid. Put together a very good 3-year-old year, but I think Thoreau put it best. You know, he said every time I've gotten off of him, I've gotten off a better horse. And I mean, we realize how blessed we are to be in this position. You know what a tremendous talent he is, and how he just continues to physically develop, and putting together a tremendous year. And we're aware of what's out there on the table. With 1 race to go this year, we like the position.
How did he come out of it?
We like the position we're in. Very good.
How did he come out of it?
Horse has got a tremendous energy level, very strong horse, and felt very good about himself last night, and even better this morning.
And what's the game plan from here?
Well, the Breeders' Cup will be his next race, and it's getting a little cool here. I'm looking to get out of town with him. We'll go back to the track with him here at the training track at Oklahoma side, where he's been stable the last 2 summers. Make sure everything's exactly where we want it. Probably expect around 3 weeks with him at Churchill, and then on to California to let him acclimate. I think, you know, yesterday was extremes as far as weather in both areas. I think it was 40 degrees yesterday morning here at Saratoga, and it got to 100 yesterday at Santa Anita. So we need to find something in the middle. I want to get out of here before we grow a winter coat, and I'm not wanting to put him in 100-degree heat, but I do want him to have time to acclimate.
Which makes sense. And, of course, the horseman can arrive on the 22nd and hit the racetrack on the 23rd. So basically about a 10-day lead up to Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. But it does mean that you've got to send him elsewhere during that interim period.
Right.
So for those that wondered if horses can go right to Del Mar, they can't. Not until October 22nd. Steve, I know this is an unfair comparison, but Curlin and Curlin's growth as an older horse, parallel the two of them, and is he Curlin-esque at this point?
To win the Woodward yesterday in the fashion that he did, and to know that the previous 2 winners we've had, the Woodward being Curlin and Rachel, how special that is to be on the list. Being fortunate enough to be around Curlin and Rachel, the ultimate respect that I have for them, I would never compare them against each other, nor anybody to them. Just realize how fortunate you are in the situation you are. Take the responsibility that you have and do the best you can with it.
You know, I kidded a little bit with Ron Winchell earlier in August after the Whitney. You know, he's got the luxury of the Tappet progeny, and right. You get to handle a lot of those. And now you're got a Candy Ride. There's probably going to be a few Candy Rides coming your way. Sons of Candy Ride sons in Gunrunner.
You know, what a special position to be in, as you mentioned. You know, the Winchells and Tappet, and I do believe that their investment in Gunrunner was with the hope of, you know, the outcross or the mating for all of the fine Tappet fillies that we've had, and you know, you think of that angle and what a special opportunity this is, as long with the, you know, the great enjoyment it's been to race Gunrunner.
No doubt about it. And speaking of some of the other pleasures that have come with Saratoga, not just the 2 wins, but you had a little bit of a sluggish start. Then the wins have started to come. Opportunity to finish with a little bit of a flourish here, and got a pair in the Prior S later.
Right.
They both going to go with the conditions as they are?
Yes, they are. Both the fillies complement each other with Vertical Oak's speed and Golden Mischief being a decided closer. Pretty interesting. Would much rather the racetrack be fast today, to have a little more formful race, but feel very good about our chances going in.
Overall for the summer, you've had some nice 2-year-olds emerge.
Why don't we take a look, go back to the Saratoga Special. We'll watch Copper Bullet win here off of some races earlier this season in Kentucky. Debuted at Keeneland, broke the maiden at Churchill, and this was the 4th career start. Beat a nice horse at Dale's. Hollywood Star, I think, is going to turn out to be nice, but this was a nice performance by Copper Bullet to win the 2-year-old stake in the middle of the meet.
Absolutely. He's a very talented horse, belongs to Winchell and Mr. Horton. A nice partnership that was put together last year and purchased some yearlings through Dr. Lambert, and I think this is a very special horse. We are going to back off of him and not go towards the Breeders' Cup with him and point towards a 3 campaign with him.
Let's pull up a maiden special a little earlier because it'll give folks a preview. Kentucky Downs, unfortunately, they had to cancel the opening day card, got rescheduled, but you have Snapper Sinclair entered on Wednesday in that recarded race, the stakes race, $350,000 down there, 7 furlongs on the grass. Snapper Sinclair gets it done. This was career start number 2, and the first move to the turf. Snapper Sinclair, the number 1 horse. Talk about him coming out of this and going into the race down at Kentucky Downs.
Saratoga suited him in the fact that talented 2-year-old, little disappointed with his first run at Belmont. Got up here, was able to give him a couple of breezes on the turf here. Thought he went to it, goes over it really well. Liked the style in which he ran here at 5.5, and feel that the 7/8 right now will be a perfect distance for him wingspan.
I wanted to pull up one more 2-year-old race because you had Pure Shot win earlier in the meet as well. First time starter, looked pretty good, wins by a chart margin 2 1/4 at 23-1, so a little bit unexpected. But talk about Pure Shot, what's in the future for this one?
He is a brilliantly quick horse. Expected him to draw on the outside, thought that when they hit the ground he'd be a length in front. He actually did not break near as well as he's capable of it. About the second jump, then he took off and was exactly where expected, but came out of it in very good shape. Would consider the Belmont Futurity for him, but probably need one more race before a race of that quality point. He's got a very laid-back demeanor, capable of a lot of speed, but it would be nice to get another race under him before he met that type.
Yeah, that was a nice performance.
There was a 77 buyer in there, and there were some very excited family members down in the winner's circle. I think you were out of town,
yes,
right? Because I only saw Scott and one of your sons,
right.
And they were your son in particular. I think had maybe put a bob down on him.
Maybe bet dinner or something over it or something like that. Being underage, because we know he wasn't at the Mutual.
I love it. They were excited, and he had the horse had come in with a terrific work note from Mike Welsh and Mike Vesey.
Right, I was very surprised at his odds. If you haven't run, you have nothing in form. But his works were excellent, and he very mature-minded horse. Came with McCathan Brothers, obviously know who a runner is, and sent him up here, and he was advertised. Very straightforward horse. Very mature mentally and capable of speed. I was surprised that he was that long of odds.
What's interesting about him, he was a son of Fast Bullet, who was the ill-fated stallion of one of the Zayat products, and died of colic. After his first season, he was going to move to Kentucky, and he only has a handful of runners, and clearly he might have been a very productive sire. It's too bad.
Yeah, unaware of his fate. I hadn't had any Fast Bullets before, but JB and Kevin McCathan, we're very excited about the horse, about his ability level. Scott Delworth partner with him and stuff like that. The horse should be a tremendous amount of fun for him.
I wanted to pull up one more race and actually go to Ellis, just to kind of tie in that you've got strings all over the place. And Ellis seems to be, over the last few years, a good launching place for 2-year-olds. And there was a debut effort back on August 20th. Beautiful game we're going to watch here. It was a career debut, number 5 horse, wins by 4 lengths. And you've had some nice winners this summer down at Ellis and on the 2-year-old side, and this is one of them. Talk a little bit about Ellis Park and how that does provide another option for the 2-year-olds.
Well, Kentucky Downs and their success, I believe, has helped Ellis out with their purses, especially for the Kentucky breds. And it's a very nice option to have horses that be able to run there in a financial situation that warrants starting. But it is an opportunity to not put the pressure of Saratoga on them. You know, you walk over to the Holden Barn here, you walk through all those people and stuff. I mean, some horses just mentally are not, even if physically capable, it is nice to give them a little bit of a mental break, a little bit easier introduction. You know, you talked about Pure Shot, and it does take a unique mind to accept the circumstances that run here for a first-time starter, especially a 2-year-old. And some of the ones that are just a little later coming on, just the teenagers of the game, so to speak, Ellis has been a wonderful spot for them to get started. You know, you mentioned Beautiful Game. He's a nice, talented horse, homebred Ropar and Millennium Farms, and I'm going to, being by even the score, pretty versatile sire, try to give him a shot over at Kentucky Downs with the purses being what they are, and I think that he'll run well.
When you talk about that starters and being ready for Saratoga or not, beyond the competition, is the mental aspect of just the crowds, and it's a different atmosphere here.
Absolutely. You want them to, you know, first of all, you got to have a tremendous amount of talent to consider belonging here. But you also have to, they have to have the mental approach that it'll move them forward. You know, you lucky enough to have horses of that level physically, you know, that are capable of running like that, but you don't want to lose them mentally as well. You know, you want them to improve. You know, the perfect scenario is Gunrunner, and he was a horse that showed a tremendous amount of talent, but him being out of a half sister to St. Liam, and you know, we know who St. Liam was at 3 and who he was at 4. You lean towards that as a possibility of what to come. And we did not bring Gunrunner to Saratoga as a 2-year-old. You know, waited and ran him at Churchill in the fall meet in September, and on he went. But I think that's if you're not mentally ready for this, I definitely think it's something they may not ever get over, and definitely would at the very least set them back.
Just before we move on from Gunrunner, I wanted to touch on the Whitney win with 5 shoes, and as I understand it, there was a story there like chasing the ball, the home run record ball. You guys had to chase down the shoe.
Well, you know, you're so excited for a race like that. I mean, the last thing you're thinking about is the shoe that you picked up during the running of the race. And you know, Juan, who's always been with Gunrunner and stuff, told Scott that, you know, he noticed it when he came back, when without anybody else, that, you know, he took it out of his tail, and walking back, he gave it to Scott and said, "This is Gunrunner's shoe," or, you know, in the excitement and stuff, you know, Scott looked at the shoe, looked at Gunrunner, and said, "It isn't his shoe," and tossed it aside. Well, about couple steps down the racetrack, and 20 "did you see that?" and what are you talking about the shoe? He had to run back and get it. It cost him an extra $100 to get the shoe back. But obviously we're very happy to have it, and you know, my wife has got a shadow box for it, and it'll be a great story. You know, it's to be fortunate enough to win the Whitney, you know, here at Saratoga, and then have a extra shoe as a memento of the day.
The shoe off the rabbit's foot.
We literally have the shoe off a rabbit's foot.
But on bump, which is a great line. Of course, it was Cautious Giant, and it was a glue on, right? That's what probably made it adhere?
The majority of it was, it did have 2 nails that came with it, and it's great to have the proof. You know, the video of how it got there. You're wondering how he picked it up, when he did, and then the video that was shown where it flew off in front of Cautious Giant,
I can tell you,
quite high in the air, bounced off his hip and into his tail.
In the press box, there was like 10 people watching the replay over and over again. Look at that! Look at that!
Yeah, exactly. To have the video of where it came, of how it happened in the race that it did, and then when just like when you run Gun Runner yesterday, everybody talking to you like it's a foregone conclusion, and you realize you're not even sure how many shoes they'll come back with. Anything can happen in a horse race.
Got to ask you about 2 more horses before we wrap up on the season, and one is here tomorrow and one in Philadelphia. And your last starter of the meet, very appropriately, is with Clark Brewster.
Oh, absolutely.
You've already won once for Clark.
Twice. Don't be short-changing us.
All right.
Come on,
I missed. Who was the second one?
Caniform won.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Come on. As hard as it is to win at Saratoga, don't be short-changing.
I won't, and Clark will get on me. No hiding place, a Munnings Gelding in the 3rd tomorrow. And you and Clark Brewster are so much fun around here. Clark has become such a regular, and mixes in with all kinds of race trackers, and the fact that he will carve out this much of his busy life as a major litigator in this country to spend at Saratoga tells you all you need to know.
It tells you all you need to know about horse racing. Yeah. I mean, my family and what horse racing has done for us, but what quality people that it has put us in contact just through quality race horses, and Clark's just a great example of that. He loves horse racing. He loves Saratoga, as you mentioned. Spends so much time up here, and he is just so much fun to have around. I mean, he really is. Puts it in great perspective and makes you realize how fortunate we are to be in this game.
Well, no hiding place tomorrow in the 3rd.
It would be
so perfect.
It would be so fun, and Clark's spending so much time up here, you want to win for him and stuff. 2 years ago, it went down to the last day of the meet to win a race for him, and with Power Nap. So hopefully we can keep somewhat of a late tradition of trying to win a race there.
Well, and he also anything that he claimed, they might show up at Remington in a couple of weeks too.
Absolutely, we got to win. We got to keep him in the winner's circle, and he does. And we have picked up some horses here that I think will win several races for him at Remington.
Finally, a pet project. A horse that drove you crazy this spring. And you know where I'm going.
Oh, absolutely.
Hence, tomorrow in the Smarty Jones, so much promise. And I think you were hopeful that he was going to become creator. Talk about what you've done with Hence in preparation for tomorrow's Smarty Jones.
Just with him, just try to keep the oars in the water. Just keep it nice and steady. He is a beautiful horse, a tremendous physical, a lot of talent. A Calumet homebred. You mentioned the frustration of not getting it done on certain times, and you look up and he's over 600,000. The horse is capable of brilliant races. The Smarty Jones came up very tough. Winner of the West Virginia Derby, and there's horse that's kept good company lines lately and run really fast. But as we all know, if Vince can just relax, take a deep breath, and run his race, he's very competitive with any 3-year-old in the country.
Well, of course, Smarty Jones will give rise to the Pennsylvania Derby, so it's a bit of an audition.
Yes, it is.
And the Pennsylvania Derby, the last grade one at 2 turns against similar company. There is, of course, the Malibu going 7/8 at the end of the year, but we've got a championship up for grabs, a real curiosity, the way these 3-year-olds have kind of taken turns beating each other, and should be very interesting tomorrow and then down at Philly in 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
Where do you head from that Saratoga now?
Everywhere. I mean, right now, it would be...
Home for you is Texas, though, right?
Arlington, Texas is home. Julian, the boys there. Keith went off to college. University of Texas this year. It's a little different, a little different for us. But that's, love about racing. The big Keith calling in, kind of missed the Woodward yesterday. That was kind of different for me and Julie and stuff, but with racing you get gathered back up and stuff. It's really a family sport.
I haven't seen you. I don't know whether you've done away with the tradition. You used to stand at the 8th Bowl, right, with the railbirds and watch a lot of races.
Yeah, I kind of grew up watching races from Riddle Downs and stuff, watching races from there. Just very comfortable doing it, and
Were you still down there this season occasionally?
Not as much, obviously, but it's still a great place to watch a race. It is, everything else you can watch on the replay, but there, just the intention, it's a different feel.
Yeah. And up here, the whole crowd is there around, so it makes it extra special. But congratulations on a great meet.
Thank you very much.
Certainly bookending with Woodward and the Whitney at the beginning of the meet. Nice and some great horses going forward as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. So good luck and congratulations. And we're wrapping things up. Loose on the lead for this Saratoga season. A great guest to wrap things up with the two grade ones on the resume. Seth Merrill, Steve Bick, you're on your way all over the place. You were telling me a week or so ago, travels over the next couple of months.
Got the Yagoda Bar Mitzvah next week in Garden City, but then we'll be down to actually up to Woodbine for Mile.
There.
You running that? You got anything on that card?
No, I do not.
Then to Philadelphia for the Stakes and the Rittenhouse Square Art Show and the Eagles opener against the Giants. Then Suffolk. Lou Raffetto insists I come to Suffolk for that October. Far Hills, Breeders' Cup, Symposium, University of Arizona, Los Al for the Futurity and the Starlet. And that's enough.
Well, we appreciate you carving out a few weeks for us here on the Saratoga backstretch.
We love being here, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful summer. We thank everybody for joining us each of these Sundays.
And we'll wrap things up. We have one more day here on the network. We'll be in tomorrow. Chris Kay will join us on Racing Across America 10 o'clock tomorrow for a little recap from the NYRA side of things. Should be a great morning to wrap things up. The weather's going to change. Again, a little rainy today, but there's a clock giveaway. There's low rollers today. Keep all of that in mind. Loose on the lead, wrapping things up for the Saratoga 2017 season. We appreciate your visiting us throughout the meet. Again, we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock for the Handicappers Report. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.